It's all right.
Can you make my hair look like this?
Oh, man, what you want to make your hair look like that for?
See, that's the problem with y'all today. Y'all don't know nothing.
Will you let the man tee you off? You yap worse than 6 barbers.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Your Barber podcast. I'm your host, Matt Bellide, a.k.a. Matty Blades on Instagram. Took a little break. This is probably my longest break from the podcast. Never had to do a holiday run through the podcast either. I was out of the country in Italy with the family, and so we're back, almost back to reality, but we're back with episode 35 of the Your Barber podcast, which is the podcast that was made to inspire and relate to the everyday barber, barbershop owner or person, or just the regular guy working a job that might find inspiration in this podcast. So we also bring on a barber guest typically, and today my guest is hailing from out there in sunny San Diego, California. He's the owner of not one, but 3 barbershops. His name is Marc Bennett, ladies and gentlemen.
How's it going?
There he is.
So many things that I've created, but this right here might be my favorite.
All right, my guys, welcome to the show. How's it going today?
Great, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Finished up a little day at work. About to check out the national championship tonight. That seems to be what everyone's talking about in the Southeast right now.
Okay. Yep.
Who you got for the championship? Who you like today?
You know, I'm not a basketball fan. You're referring to basketball, right?
Talking to football or national championship in college football.
College football. No, man. I only follow NFL and barely. I'm just too busy these days. But I am a Jets fan by unfortunately by default. I grew up in New Jersey, so.
God bless you, man. God bless you.
Yeah, it's a hard Jets fan.
There you go. Yeah, they have the longest playoff drought right now in the NFL.
I know, I saw that.
And then my Denver Broncos are the next team in line for
that. At least you've had some good teams over the years. We haven't had one since 1969. So,
all right. Well, I bet on Michigan tonight, so we'll at least hope for that.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, so Marc reached out to me on Instagram, said he found the podcast, like what I'm doing, and I appreciate you dropping in and letting me know that. It's always cool to see people discover the podcast organically, and I checked out some of the things you were doing on YouTube at least, and I was like, wow, seems like you've kind of wore a lot of hats during your day. You've kind of gotten into a lot of industries and just, been a hard worker and a business owner and things like that. So you have 3 barbershops in the San Diego area?
Yeah, all 3 are in the San Diego area. I started here barbering in 2008. And so, yeah, man, I'm up to 3 shops. Barbering's been great for me. I always tell everyone that everything I've been able to do really all goes back to barbering. Even though I actually don't cut hair anymore. I haven't cut hair in about 2 years. So I'm just too busy doing other things at this point. But barbering's consistent. The barbershops are consistent. I really have a fond feeling towards barbering. I continue to give back. I teach at the barber school I went to every quarter, but I teach the business of barbering. I don't teach haircutting. I always say that I've employed many barbers that are way better haircutters than me. But I think my real specialty is in kind of rallying people and inspiring them to want to do better in life and in their career. And that's kind of why I've had some success in all the businesses I do or have done.
Okay. Yeah. You're a good motivator. That's good. That's a good thing for a coach or, leading a team, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things, like, it's so cliche to say, but you got to be the strong leader, or else everyone's not going to follow in the right way. And I think that by setting an example, you help inspire people to want to be better, So it's definitely an important trait to have, to be a good leader, especially if you're a business owner. And especially in the barbershop, man, frankly, you know, barbers generally don't know how to manage themselves, even though they want to be independent and do their own thing. Sometimes that's their own worst enemy as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it was mine. That's why I'm still an employee myself. I was like, you know, I don't trust myself in certain areas. Like I don't trust myself with full reign. Sometimes you know, I like to keep things in place that keep me at bay. And, you know, whether it's a boss or just, you know, the continuity of the rules of the shop, you know, whatever that
it's not for everybody. I mean, if everybody was a leader like that, then, you know, it wouldn't work. So there's nothing wrong with being a great employee. As a matter of fact, you know, as a business owner, I can tell you, I actually have fantasies of being an employee again. It's much less stressful. You go and do your thing and you do a good job at it and you go home and you're kind of done with it.
Yeah. I don't think I'm out of the realm of being a leader or anything like that. I just think, like you just said, the amount of stress, like I'm in a great place in my life right now. And it feels great to not have the stress of the full responsibility of running a business, right? Like it's a lot of people say, well, I would do it this way. I would do it this way. Then do it. Do it then. If you want to run a business, like
for sure.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah, man. I mean, it definitely is easier said than done. And you know, being an employee is a great thing to be. There's definitely nothing wrong with it. I've just spent, I always felt like I was just too good of an employee. I always cared too much about where I worked, you know? And so in my head, I thought I just need to do my own thing because, you know, sometimes you don't get recognition for being a good worker or hard worker. And those kind of things would drive me crazy, you know? So I just decided to do my own thing. But, you know, we were chatting a little bit earlier and it has its own challenges as well, being a business owner and keeping people happy and everybody's different. So what you're doing for one person may make them totally stoked and happy. And for another person, it doesn't, you know.
You think you got everyone's best interests and then you think everyone's in agreement. And then there's always one or two people that throw in a curveball. And we'll kind of get into the specifics of what you're alluding to there. But so I have an opening segment. It's called Just an Observation. And you kind of touched on something I want to touch on in it. You talked about hard work, right? So it seems like there's a lot of content. You know, I kind of observe, you know, my timeline on Instagram and see, you know, just how many videos have you seen? If you're not working smarter in 2024, then what are you doing? Don't even work at all.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, here's my top 3 reasons on why you shouldn't work hard. Like, it's like, there's still value in hard work, right? Like, why is this getting lost in the shuffle that like working hard's a bad thing? Like,
I think
you'll need a baseline of hard work, like in your DNA. You just can't like forgo it and then everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, the amount of people that get somewhere without hard work is very slim, you know, like there, of course, there's people who win lotteries. They've made it, right? But they won a lottery and the chances of that happening are 1 in a million. And it's the same thing with a job or a career or a business. I mean, you got to be careful where you're getting that information from and really like look into those people and see like, well, what have they accomplished and what have they actually done to get there? Because I don't know one person, and I know some pretty successful people. I don't know one of them that hasn't worked hard.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just goes with the territory.
There's just like this like group think too of just like how many times have we seen stuck behind the chair, like that phrase being thrown around? That bothers me so much because just because you're behind the chair doesn't mean you haven't progressed or you're not progressing or you're just in the position of cutting hair. Like that's it. And sometimes people are fulfilled with not doing more than that. Sometimes they add little things here and there. It's just more about what makes you happy, but like you still have to work hard. You know, it should be fulfilling to work hard too. Like,
I think it all comes down to, it comes down to just what you said. It's happiness. And some people need to make 25 grand a year, depending upon where they live in the country. And they can live a fine life like that and not have much and be able to see their family on the weekends and hang out. And some people want to make $1 million a year. So it's all relative to what you think is going to cause you happiness, or, you know, is going to create happiness for you. But the reality is happiness comes from, not from like being overstressed at work or earning a certain amount of money. It's just, where's your satisfaction level at? Yeah. And I think that's where we, myself included, you know, it's where we all fall short. We all don't, we all think the next thing will make us satisfied. And as you know, as you get there, you're just like, okay, well, now what? Well, now what? Yeah. I mean, there's billionaires out there who want to make more than the next billionaire, and they're in a competition with them. And it's always a constant, you know, I hate to say that. I mean, I would love to say that I don't compare myself to anyone, but I do. You know, when you're around people at the same level, then you compare yourself to where they're at, and then you want to get there as well. And then, so it, you know, it's a never ending cycle. So, you know, like my sister, for instance, she's a perfect example. She'll work in the same job forever. She doesn't make a ton of money, but, you know, she hangs out with her family every night. You know, they're all home by 5 eating. They go and they hang out every weekend together. You know, they don't make a ton of money, so they don't go and do a ton of things, but I would say their satisfaction level is pretty good. Right. And so, I mean, I think if you can be satisfied, you know, that's great. The problem is just not being stagnant, you know, because I think that's also a killer. When people are at a certain comfort level, then they don't grow, then they also don't feel satisfied. So you got to push yourself a little all the time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to grind away all the time too, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that you can still work hard and feel good from the hard work you did.
Yep.
Especially if it meant something, right? Like, you know, there's working hard and not, you know, seeming like you're running in place like that. That's the definition of being stuck. Like the word stuck just keeps getting thrown around so much. You're stuck behind the chair, and it's just like, who has ever said that wasn't selling something at the end of the post?
Yep.
That said, like, are you stuck behind the chair? Well, buy my educational system or buy my, you know, program. So
yeah, I mean, it's complete bullshit to sell something, you know, like you said, because I have a barber been working for me forever. I just don't think he wants to do anything else.
Yeah,
he loves it.
That's fine.
It's great.
Nothing
you know what I mean?
With that. Like, why do we preach like there's something wrong with that?
Yeah,
like,
there definitely isn't. You know.
And then there's barbershops owners like yourself that like don't like to hear, I'm sure, all of the spewing of the you know, you got to do it on your own and charge you know $150 a haircut. Like, you know, that's not a thing that's music to barbershop owners' ears, I'm sure. But like.
Yeah, you know, it's a funny thing, man, because I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit different, but I actually have created a scenario in my shops that is pretty unique because I do like seeing people grow. And so generally what I like to do is take people on as an apprentice barber. We have that program here in California, and having them as a shop helper / apprentice. And then when they get their license, they become a barber. And then after a while, they become a senior barber. And then after that, they can move to my Pappy's Premier Shop, where they go on booth rent. But before that, we go on commission. So I help them build a clientele. I help them learn how to talk with people and retain people. And then by the time they're ready to go to booth rent, they have a full book of business. They're only right next door, you know, and they can charge whatever they want. And I coach them like, once you're booked out a certain amount of time, we work by appointment at our shop. Once you're booked out a certain amount of time, it's time to raise your price a little bit. You thin those people out, you raise your price. So you do it slowly and consistently. And you're not going from $30 a haircut to $150 a haircut like these guys are telling you online. It's just, it's not sustainable. You're going to burn out. People are going to do it once, maybe. They're not going to come back. I mean, the reality of an actual $150 value haircut, I mean, I've never seen one. I've never seen a haircut. I do see the value in someone's time. You know, like if you want to get a haircut by Vic Blends or something like that, you'd have to pay that much money. But it's just because it's a time factor. It's not necessarily a skill factor. So
the demand and the time and just like.
But for the average Joe barber, no, it's like we gradually raise our prices as we get busier, and, you know, we work the way we like to work, whether it's by appointment or if it's by walk-in or whatever. you know, the goal, I think, of every barber is to create a scenario that's conducive to the way you want to live, whether that's busy with walk-ins or working by appointment or, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah. And you form your clientele that way too. You kind of form what, you know, what favors your strengths more, and like the type of clientele you would like to have in your chair is normally what ends up happening, you know, across the span of 2 to 3 years. You start developing, you know, what your clientele is going to look like. You said something earlier that was interesting. We're talking about leading, and like, how can you like still be yourself while leading? You know what I mean? Like, how much do you kind of turn on the professional aspect of Marc compared to the, you know, the personal side of Marc, and like, how do you kind of balance those two things?
You mean towards the barbers here, or just
towards being the owner of the shops and, you know, just leading your groups?
Yeah, it's a hard balance, man, because, you know, everybody likes to be led in different ways. Some people are very needy. Some people aren't needy at all. Some people need help but don't want it. Some, you know, it's really hard. So I think, you know, what I've learned over the, you know, I've been a business owner, a barbershop owner since 2008, but I've been a business owner since about 2003. So, you know, it's been going on quite a long time. And what I've learned over the years is, as an owner, you just have to be like a chameleon, man. You got to be, you got to kind of have conversations with people individually and learn what's important to them. Like if it's time with their family, you know, it's helping them to get home by 5 to have dinner. If it's making a ton of money, it's showing them how to manage their time better. If it's wanting to retire early, it's helping them to start saving the right way. So
you've owned businesses for so long that it's part of just who you are now. You know what I mean? As a person.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is. Like the best satisfaction I get as a business owner is when the people who work for me are accomplishing cool stuff, buying homes or going on cool trips or being able to get engaged or married. All that's like a way bigger win for me than like another dollar in the bank account.
100%. So, yeah, you're in the people business, man. I mean, you're raising people in a way too, and it feels good to see your people win and, you know, progress with just life, not in their career. So
definitely. And barbering in particular, man, people are, you know, we get into this business to be like an independent person, like we were talking about, and kind of do our own thing. But the reality is a lot of us, we can't, or a lot of people can't handle not having a structured way of doing things. And so that's why you see the turnaround so much in shops or even in careers, like people becoming barbers and then not following through with it. You know, the amount of people that when I go and teach at the school, the amount of people that I see barbering 2 or 3 years later, it's probably like a quarter of those people are still barbers, you know, because they don't know how to manage their time and build a clientele, and, you know, they're not patient, and, you know, whatever, they're charging too much. There's a million reasons. They're
not patient enough to pick the right shop either for their first shop. And then that first experience kind of spoils things. And then they might fall out of barbering, you know, fall out of love with it too.
For sure.
Like, I've had some guests on here that kind of happened and they had to refind it. And there's been a few guests that have lost it and then refound it. And, you know, it's an interesting thing how, you know, it always kind of comes back around. If you initially wanted it and then lost it, and then somehow, some way, you're like, you know what, man, I'm tired of working construction, or I'm tired of doing whatever. Let me see if the barbering thing can kind of come back into my life. So we just finished a holiday run. You know, how was your holiday rush recently? Any learnings from it?
You know, this year, surprising. I don't know how it was for you guys out there. You're in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how it was for you guys. This was actually, we were busy because we work by appointment, right? So we were busy. We were booked all day like we normally are. But generally in the past, we would, those weeks leading up to the holidays would be booked really far in advance, you know, like 2 weeks in advance even.
I think you're saying the same thing I felt too.
Yeah, I feel like this year
I'm like, where the hell is everybody? Did everyone leave already? Everyone go back home, or?
Yeah, so it was a strange year for sure. I don't know if it's the economy changing or people are getting worried, or we just did a price increase not long ago. That might have been a thing too.
We're about to do one.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I would say it was fine in terms of like from the shop's perspective, but we have some newer barbers that I was like, they would have 2 or 3 appointments available in a day, which is not normal for us, even a new barber. So, yeah, it was definitely different this year. The vibe of the economy is changing, and yeah, it's just a different thing. I see it in my other businesses too. I own restaurants as well, and they were also a bit slower this holiday season as well.
People are just like groomed off of convenience these days too, and like the feel for procrastinating is like even higher than ever. I feel like.
Yep.
I feel like that may have been some of because like I said, I was out of the country. I had a trip. My wife's from Italy, so we spend Christmas in Italy every few years. And my last day in the shop was the 22nd. And in my brain, I'm thinking, no one's coming in the shop the 23rd and 24th that I'm going to retain. There's probably going to be a bunch of one and dones I'll never see again, more than likely. But I would have liked to see a little more proactivity from my clients and my regulars on getting on the books faster. Yeah. The days ahead didn't look great, but they ended up filling in the day of. But
yeah,
it was just like, it was a little odd. Yeah, it was just odd. I was like, man, are these people trying to wait to the very last second, or did they already leave, or what is it? But it was just kind of it was still a great stretch, great time, but like it was just. Yeah, just like you said, I felt the same way. It was just like a little off for some reason.
Yeah. I can say it was different this year than it's been in 10 years for me in barbering.
Yeah.
Wow. Even I was barbering even in 2008 when we had the economy crash, and I was just busy the whole time. It didn't matter. So, yeah, it was a really different feeling this year, different than it's ever been. But we're back into it, and we're back to kind of normal right now. I mean, it's we're right. My one shop is right by San Diego State University, so we have lots of students, and the students are still on break. So what'll happen is they'll come back. Let's see, it's the 8th, so they'll come back in like a week and a half, and then we'll be freaking slammed.
Yeah.
So I try to encourage. I try to encourage the barbers to take this time and take some time off if they want. They just hustle during the holiday. And then we're going to be hustling as soon as the students get back. So I think, that's what we try to do over here.
Yeah. It seems like a universally slower time. It doesn't have to be dead by any means, but it can be slower. Yeah. It's a good planning time to take off some time too.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
It's also, it's exciting. Like it's exciting kind of resetting, getting through that rush and just like, okay, what's next? We can kind of think now for a second since we're not all busy at the same time and kind of coordinate. And we've had some meetings at work. We had one when I was in Italy. I got on the FaceTime though. Shout out to Malcolm. He had some good camera angles for me.
Nice.
Felt like I was in the room. I had headphones on. He was just like, because we're talking about our price increases. We're talking about we're having a little bit of a technical issue with our card collecting right now with like the client has to put in their card number again every time they book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just part of our cancellation policy while we're doing that. And so we got to make some adjustments, and we're trying to prevent people from having to download an app, which is like another step, and it's a pain in the ass, honestly. And but it seems like that's the best way for them to retain all the information that they don't have to put in over and over. So we're trying to find something the best of both for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely ones. I mean, Square's really good. Square will keep it on file.
We use Square. It keeps it on file for us to like use, but like if they're rebooking, especially from the website,
it's collecting it again, right?
And it's just recollecting it. So that's kind of our error, our problem right now that we're in the middle of fixing. I don't even think we knew that was the case because we didn't hear any complaints really from the clients, but it's kind of been tested now, and we're trying to just tweak things along the way for sure.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, let's go ahead and start all the way back at the beginning of Marc Bennett's life.
Sure.
In general, where were you born? You said New Jersey?
Yeah, I was born in Jersey. That's how we got chatting on it, because I told you, unfortunately, I'm a Jets fan. But yeah, man, born in Jersey, 1974. I'll be 50 years old actually in 2 days, man. That's
awesome, man.
It's crazy.
I probably have more 50-year-olds on this show than 25-year-olds. Well, I guarantee 25-year-olds, but
that's
like
great.
Even 30-year-olds.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, grew up in Jersey, man. Typical, broken home, yada, 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 all the typical story that everybody has. Didn't have anything growing up, and decided to move to California when I was 25. I came here to visit during the winter once, and it was beautiful. And I was like, man, I got to live out there. And I had a friend who was
25. What 25 is such a crossroads age. Is that not like the turning point age?
I think, you've grown up a little bit by that point. You're not a kid anymore, and you're realizing like, okay, it's time to do something. And yeah, that's what it was for me, man. And I had a friend that said, dude, you can come stay with me 3 months. I'll give you no rent, just sleep on the couch. And I was like, great. Came out here, 50K in credit card debt, had no idea what I wanted to do. Worked a bunch of dead end odd jobs. And then honestly,
jobs.
Oh man, I was building skateboards.
Oh, that's dope.
I was ironically a guy from Jersey owned a skateboard company out here, and I started working for him. I assembled bongs, like water bongs, which is funny because I've never smoked weed in my life. I'm straight edge my whole life, so I've never drank, smoked weed or anything. But this was part of the job, so I assembled these bongs.
At a dispensary or like a factory?
No, like the company I worked for was like a bong manufacturer. So I would take like the glass and put it in the base and epoxy it in and make sure it was straight and all situated. It was pretty interesting job actually. And all the pot smokers, they all loved my bongs. They was like, oh, yours are always so nice and they're always set up so good. So it was pretty funny because I never smoked weed ever. So,
wow.
So yeah, I did that. And then I worked at Geico Auto Insurance for a while.
Man. Yeah. How debilitating was a part of that life right there?
I'll tell you what, man, working at Geico was an eye opener for me because I had bought a Tony Robbins program. You know who Tony Robbins is?
Yeah, absolutely.
And because I told you I was 50 grand in debt, dude, I was like down, dude. I was like moved out here, heartbroken, broke. And I was like, man, I got to do something to make a change. I'm moving to a new place. I'm going to do a new thing. I bought this Tony Robbins program. I was like, I'm going to apply everything I learned and just to try to prove it wrong. And I'll tell you what, man, I started like really applying it to my life and just trying to be positive and try to like foresee my future and doing goal setting and doing, affirmations every day. And I really, really took off at Geico. I was actually the first person at Geico to go from entry level to management in less than 2 years. And I attribute that strictly to everything I learned at Tony Robbins, because I went to work with a good attitude. I put in hard work. I tried to be smart. I hung around the people who were doing stuff over there. And it really made a difference to me. And then I got so inspired that I was doing a goal setting workshop one day from the Tony Robbins program. And I realized it was on CD at the time. There wasn't even like MP3s or Spotify or anything at that time. This was in 2000. And I flipped over the CD and it had an 858 phone number, which is the local area code here in San Diego. And I was like, that's strange. I wonder if there's like an office. So I called and they were like, yeah, the office is like right here, right up the road from where you live. And I was like, I'm going to go get a job. So I like put a suit on. I walked over there and I was like, I'm here for an interview. And they were like, did you have an interview? I said, no. And they were like, well, what job are you looking for? And I was like, any job you have, I'll take it. I just want to work here. Right. And I wanted to go to Tony's programs, but they were so expensive. And I figured if I worked there, maybe I could get it for free, or maybe I could get a discount. And so they said, we don't have anything for you. And I was like, okay, well, here's my resume, which didn't have anything on it. And, but call me. And they were like, great. And so I was on my way home, and the sales manager called me on my way home, and he's like, "Hey,
From
man,
Geico?
from
From there.
Tony Robbins."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man, would you be interested to work in sales?" And I was like, "Well, I've never worked in sales, but I'm like, yeah, I'm down to try it. Like, if you put me with the best sales guy, I'm sure I can learn. I'm smart." And he's like, "All right, I'm going to give you a shot." And I was like, "Oh man." So quit my job the next day at Geico, started there 2 weeks later. Fast forward, I was like top 3 salespeople over there.
What were you selling?
I was selling like Tony Robbins programs, like the in-person events, also the CD programs.
So all the seminars and then
seminars,
CDs,
yeah, all of that. And I got to go to all of Tony's events. And that was game changing, dude. I traveled all over the world. Traveled all over the world with Tony doing events. And then eventually I was like, I got to do my own thing. And I
learned anything from it, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it
man.
was inspiring to do something.
It was great. Then I opened the first tattoo shop, and then I opened the second tattoo shop.
So wait, what kind of background brought you into tattooing? Did you have any tattooing background?
No, so I was actually a body piercer, not a tattooer.
Okay, so what about piercing?
Yeah, so before I moved from Jersey, I was like, I need some skill. And I had a friend that was a body piercer, and he was like, dude, I'll teach you how to body pierce. And then when you go out there, it'll be easy for you to get a job. So I always worked in the evenings body piercing somewhere. So I was working like full-time Tony Robbins, and then at night I was being a piercer and on the weekends. And so finally I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. And I opened a tattoo shop with my buddy. He was a tattoo artist. I was a piercer, and we opened that up. Then that was in 2005, and piercing was kind of not a thing anymore. No one was really getting piercings as much.
Yeah. What's the most common body piercing? Belly button?
At that time,
nipple?
probably, yeah. Especially at that time, probably belly buttons. Yeah, noses, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So you did everywhere.
Well, we did I pierced everything. You name it, I pierced it in my life. That's for sure.
Yeah. So ears, you're probably doing a ton of ears.
Ears, tons of those. Yeah. So 2005, I opened my first tattoo shop. It went great. I was still working full time and piercing at night and owning my shop. 2008, we opened a second tattoo shop, and I decided I'm going to go to barber school. So because I wasn't making.
At what point did you meet where you didn't have to work that side job anymore on top of owning?
As soon as I started barbering, I decided I'm going to go full on barbering, because my first barbershop was a 1-chair barbershop inside the tattoo shop.
Okay.
So I
That's
decided
a thing too. I mean, there's plenty of barbershops and tattoos.
Now it's a thing. Back then in 2008, there wasn't any of those. I was like one of the first ones to do it out here.
Definitely a lot less. Like in Arizona, there's this one in Scottsdale. I think it's called Sun Gold. But it was kind of affiliated with people I went to school with out there, because I went to school in Arizona. I don't know if I brought that up. Yeah. I lived in Arizona for like 3 years in the greater Tempe, Phoenix area. So
hot, dude. So hot.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. It was something different. It really your body gets accustomed to it quick. And then like you feel like a wuss, because like 70 degrees is like, you're like, oh man, a little chilly here, no? Like,
I like Flagstaff and Sedona a lot. We camp there. We camp in both of those places quite often.
Definitely get some seasons of Flagstaff. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
Super nice. Sedona is like deafening how quiet it is. Like that.
So nice,
it's so nice. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So I started the barbershop. I graduated barber school, and I went right.
So what pulled you to barbering though? Was it something you were always interested in, or did you have any mentors in it?
No, I liked going to the barbershop.
Yeah.
And quote unquote traditional barbering was like starting to be a thing again. And I just liked the vibe. I had a friend that owned a shop here called Lefties. And I would get my hair cut there, and the fellows were real cool. A bunch of dudes, a bunch of tattoo dudes there hanging out. And I was like, this is great, man. Like, I love bullshitting with people. I feel like I'd be a good barber. I'm already used to like putting my hands on people from being a piercer. Like, I think it would be something I'm good at. And so that's why I really decided to go. You know, I felt like I was ready for something new. And yeah, man. So I opened that first shop. I went right from school to working on my own. I never worked at a shop, actually. I only worked right on my own at first. So
yeah, I had another guest that did that. He actually opened up the shop before he got his license.
Oh, interesting.
So he was like a boss and learned how to, you know, his first shop was his own shop.
That's great.
But yeah, so that's kind of the way you went. You just
my learning curve for cutting hair was a much longer because I didn't have anyone really to learn from. So I was learning just by doing it. And
what was school like? Did you do an apprentice? You couldn't have done an apprentice, right?
No, I did a regular 1,500 hours here in California.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I just, you know, I was cutting hair at night after school at the barbershop, at the tattoo shop with my chair in there. The tattooers and the clients that would come in there, I would cut before I had my license even, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's your typical barber school experience. Everybody has it. It's like terrible. You don't learn anything. And, you know, you just get your hours.
I had a great experience, man.
That's great, man.
I got
glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that because that's not normal, as you know.
What was do you think the biggest thing they were lacking? Like the business advice or the just professionalism? Like what do you think that you think could have made a huge difference if they just made that single effort?
My school was a complete nightmare. There was one lesson in the entire 10 months I was there. It was a 14-step shave that one instructor did one time, and that was it. There was no sit down, let's read from chapter 1. No, here's how you do a skin fade. No, here's how you section hair. No, none of that. We had zero instruction when I say
the state board shaving instructions. All right, I'm out of here.
That's it. You're out of here. That's it. It was horrendous. So that school now I teach at, and it's actually, I feel like it's the best school in San Diego. They've come around. They've come full circle, and they really care about their client or their students. And I feel like it's a really, really great program over there now.
Perfect, man. That's good giving back. That feels good too.
Yeah, man. I mean, what's the point of getting anything if you can't give it? My motto, dude, is I'm always trying to give more than I can ever expect to receive in return. You know,
absolutely, man.
I just don't.
You have any kids?
I got 2 kids.
You have 2 kids. Yeah. So when did that happen along the way?
That happened. I also met my wife in 2008 as well. Right when I went to barber college, I met her. And then we had our first daughter in 2010. And then we adopted a daughter in 2015 as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Are they similar age, or are they kind of?
No, my adopted daughter was a baby when we got her, so they're 5 years difference in age. Yeah.
Okay, nothing too crazy though. I mean,
they're good.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. Like, how's that been? Just raising 2 daughters, like along being a business owner. You know, I have 1 daughter, and I don't own any businesses, and I'm like, how the hell do people do 2?
Yeah, it's hard, man, and I think again, it's timing. It's a little bit of luck, you know. You got to be at the right time and the right. If I had kids in 2005 when I was working full time, piercing at nighttime, owning.
Think about your life if you stayed at Geico and had kids.
There wouldn't have been any way.
Yeah, talking about being stuck. That's stuck.
Yeah, that's stuck because now you got a kid to take care of too.
Right.
So I think a lot of it's
worried about the financial safety and everything like that. Wow. It's crazy how that works, right?
Yeah. I think, a lot of times it's just, it's all timing and luck, man, where you're at in life and how you manage it. And I think if you can realize when you're young, like just hustle, so you don't have to do it when you're older, it makes such a difference, man. Cause I can tell you now that I'm going to be 50, it seems like yesterday I was working at Geico.
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday I just moved out here from New Jersey. And now this year I'll have lived here 25 years here and 25 years in Jersey. So
Wow.
It has gone by like that. And when you're young, it's hard to realize that the time really does go by that fast. And I just, I'm so thankful that everything happened just the way it did, because it really has worked out quite nicely.
So what about when you got into business? Did you kind of seek any kind of mentorship from anybody? Did you just learn everything? Like, who's your most important barber and business mentor?
Barber mentor, I will say I didn't really have one, man. I kind of just hung around business people in general. I joined like some networking groups and things like that when I first became a business owner, because frankly, most barbershop owners, they aren't very professional. I mean, that's just a fact, I mean, now in 2023, you are finding people who are doing things right. But back in 2008, I mean, everybody's letting barbers work without licenses, no contracts. It was a free for all at that time. So I was hanging around people who were doing other things in business. And also, I didn't see the typical barbershop setup at that time as a profitable way to do business. I don't like a booth rental business only. It's just not sustainable, and it's not worth my time to do it. And
what makes it unsustainable?
Because you're maxed out at what you can earn as an owner. Okay. You'll never earn more than whatever that booth rent is. And you think
the turnover is higher from a booth rent than a commission?
I think the turnover is higher in booth rent than a busy commission shop.
Yeah.
So, like at my shop, you could graduate barber school tomorrow and start on Friday, and you'll be booked for the whole day. Yeah. First day in the shop, you'll do 12 services or more. Wow. So that's a different scenario than, like a lot of times when I'm teaching at the school, they're like, I don't want to give you 40%, because new barbers here, it's 60, they keep 60, I keep 40.
Yeah.
And the new barbers or the barbers at school will be like, well, why would I give you 40%? And I'm like, well, because you're cutting all of my every client that you cut is mine. It's not yours.
You didn't bring the clients in the door.
Yeah. You're not bringing anybody in. So sure, when you've gotten to a point where every client that's booking with you is your client, then we talk about going to booth rent. So I set it up in a way that I keep the shop very busy so that people can build a clientele and then move to a booth rent model at that point. That way I never lose them. It's very rare that barbers quit. If they do, they're usually going to open their own shop. And I've only ever fired 2 people over this entire 15 years. I'm pretty proud of it.
Run.
Yeah.
That's something to be very proud of. And so you mentioned something earlier, because you kind of have a farming system with your apprenticeship program.
Yep.
So how do you kind of set up between the 3? Do you have one that's like the premier, like best of best, or you have one that's kind of a transition out of the apprenticeship, or like how do you kind of match it a little bit? Like how do you play it?
Basically, that's how we do. We have one shop. My biggest shop here, it's a 10-chair shop. We have always a helper and an apprentice, and then the barbers. We have the barbers split between barbers and senior barbers. Barbers are barbers that have been cutting for maybe less than 2 years or something. Mm-hmm. And then senior barbers over 2 years, they charge a bit more. And then once their clientele is solid, they move to the premier side, the premier barbershop, and they get to be on booth rent at that spot.
How many chairs are in that shop?
Six right now.
Wow. Okay.
There's 4 barbers over there. So it's a privilege to go over there. It means you put in time, you've built a solid clientele, you've proven that
black belt in your shop process. Yeah.
It's time to move on and do your own thing. And then the next thing is, let's open a shop together or go open your own shop, whatever. I'm supportive of any of those scenarios. I want people to do good. And so my 3rd shop is actually only half of mine. I opened it with one of the barbers. He decided he wanted to open one of his own shop. So I said, okay, let's open it together. I said, you want to call it Pappy's? You want to call it your name, Gary? His name is Gehrig, like Lou Gehrig. So you want to call it Garrig's? You want to call it Pappy's? What do you want to do? And he said, no, man, I want to keep the brand. You know, I want to keep this thing going. He's like, it has a name and everything. And let's just keep it going.
That says a lot about you, and, you know, he trusts you, and, you know, you built him up the right way, it seems. Is he someone that you've had from the very beginning, or did he kind of come along?
Man, he was a client, and then he became an apprentice, and then he became a barber, and then now he's a partner. So
That's
it's the best scenario, man.
Super best scenario you could have right there.
Because in my head, I think
owners should be listening to this, because that's a great example of how you make it work.
In my head, man, like if I could have, you know, let's just say there's 10 barbers here. If I could mentor and help all 10 of them open stores, whether it's Pappy's shop or their own, that's a win for me. You know, that's great. And especially if it's a Pappy shop, because then I get to have a part of that too. And, you know, that's a retirement plan for me as well. You know, when I'm not able to do this anymore.
That's a fair and honest way to develop a barber, you know, and that keeps them around too. And yeah, man, that's tough. I mean, it's got to be tough, like balancing keeping a team intact while still being that person where you're kind of developing independence and letting them, you know, spread their wings and kind of make their own decisions. And usually that decision is staying with you, it seems. So that's a beautiful
I've been really lucky, man. Really, really lucky. Thank goodness.
So like what kind of style barbershop? Let's kind of talk about the style of your barbershop while I pull up the Instagram here a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Like you know, if there's a typical type of barbershop, it's ours. It's a traditional type barbershop. We service pretty much anyone, but the general majority of our customers are going to be like your average college kid up to 45-year-old guy, generally Caucasian, Latino clientele. We don't get a ton of black folks in here, and I think it's just because the aesthetic is just not the right aesthetic. Most of us come from like a punk rock type background. Yeah. So the music's a certain way in the shop and stuff too. So I think that turns off a certain clientele, but generally
everybody right here,
that's most of them. Yeah. We had some out. So you can see we got the gambit there. We got all kinds of folks working here. I'm proud to say that we've got people of all ethnicities and races and sexes and everything else. So it's a great team.
That's beautiful, man. The squad. So that was the holiday party, apparently.
That was the holiday party. Yeah. So we had a couple missing that they were out of town.
It's hard to get everyone to buy into the holiday party. Some people.
Yeah, man. It's so weird. I always wanted to like have I would ask people where do they want to go or what do they want to do, but I think people just want to come and get their food and their bonus and head out and go back home, you know. So I've learned that let's just have a cool party at the shop. We'll do a white elephant and have some pizza, and then we'll head home.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So that's the front of the 10-chair shop there.
That's the big one.
That's the big one. Yep. So yeah,
are they pretty good in terms of where in San Diego do they kind of place that?
This shop is in San Diego proper, right here in San Diego. San Diego State University is around the corner. You know, in my opinion, the best place to be in San Diego, right here in the college area. Then my other shop is a little bit north, still in Poway, still in San Diego County, but in a town called Poway.
Okay.
This one with the brown chair, that's Premier, Pappy's Premier right there.
Right here.
Mm-hmm. So that's the Premier side there.
Do you change the signage at all?
I do, man. I mean, my logo is my logo, but I like the shops to look a little bit different too.
So there's Pappy's Premier. Let me shoot you a follow real quick. #1.
Thank you.
But
I do most of the posting. Most of the posting I do on the main page, the Pappy's Barbershop page.
It's a beautiful shop.
Thanks, man.
Looks brand new, spiffy, and nice.
Just opened that one in June.
Right in June. Okay, so got 4 people in there. Just opened in June. That's good.
Yeah, man.
Great start. Looking nice. There's the signage outside.
That's
there
the
we
window.
go.
Yeah,
Pappy's
buddy of mine
here.
hand paints windows. He's amazing painter. All that's gold leaf. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but all the lettering's like gold leaf. That's really super nice.
Yeah, I can tell it's got a little shimmer.
Yep.
Oh yeah, man. So do you like pick certain days to work in certain shops, or?
Man, my office is here at the main shop, and I do all my business from here. I like I said, I own 2 restaurants as well, vegan restaurants. I'm also
What?
Yeah, I own 2
know that.
Yeah. I own 2 vegan restaurants. I've been vegetarian 30 something years and been vegan a few years now as well. So I own 2 vegan restaurants. And then I flip houses, and I'm a real estate investor. So I do all of that from my office here at the college area, Pappy shop.
How much are you able to delegate and kind of not have to have your hands all over everything? You know what I mean?
The restaurants, I delegate almost everything. I have a business partner with the restaurants, and we have really great managers there. Those managers handle business. So, and we get calls when, the oven breaks or, something major happens. Otherwise they kind of run things. And my business partner also actually owned 5 barbershops in Portland called Rooks. He sold them a few years ago. And that's how we know each other. Again, like I said, barbering has done so much for me.
Catapulted him into the restaurant.
Yeah, he sold his barbershops and opened the restaurant, the first restaurant.
He went the franchise way?
No, we just own them privately, the 2 of us.
No, I'm talking about when he had Rooks.
They had 5 shops in Portland.
They have 5 shops, and you just sold them all to like what kind of company do you?
He sold them to another barber, actually.
Just one barber. Okay.
Yeah, one barber who owns Golden Crown Barbershop here in San Diego, or I'm sorry, here in Southern California, bought Rooks from him.
Wow.
Yeah, so he sold those, opened the first. My restaurant's called Ben and Esther's Vegan Deli, and my business partner opened the first one in Portland, and then we teamed up, and then we opened another one here in San Diego.
Okay. So out of all the businesses and ventures, what do you think is the most that's like you kind of have to hustle the hardest for right now compared to something that kind of takes care of itself almost?
Well, I also just purchased a teeth whitening and cleaning business in October. And so I'm hustling that business the most at the moment because it's the newest thing I've got going on. But
you know what I watched? I realized I forgot to bring up. You were a beach body coach at one point, right?
Yeah, I was. Yep.
So what went into that? Because I was a proud member of I did P90X.
Nice.
When I graduated high school, part of my story, I had my big toe cut off by a lawnmower.
Oh my God.
A terrible accident. And, I was kind of like falling out of shape, and I played sports in high school. And man, I did that coming off that injury. I did P90X like my life depended on it. Like I did it like 2 times through, super strict. The diet, I had the shake, it came with it or whatever. And man, I got in the best shape of my life because I took it serious. And yeah, then after that, I could kind of, mix in whatever and do my own thing. But yeah, I owe a lot of thanks to that. Just like the work ethic.
It's a great program. I was a Beachbody coach, but I was kind of one by default. My wife really was a coach.
Ah, so that's how you got into it. What point? What time was that? Like, what did you have going then?
That
at
was
the same time?
Yeah,
I'm sure that wasn't the only thing.
No, that was right around the same time, probably 2009 or 10 when we were doing that. And my wife actually had a pretty good run being a coach, but she works a full-time job too. And then we had kids, things changed a little bit. And so she just stepped back just to do her job, just her regular job. And then the barbershops and stuff were starting to do well. So she just didn't need to kind of pursue it anymore. But that was a great time in our life, man, because we were both, you know, approaching our 40s, and it was great to be in shape. And I think my wife still works out. She just did P90X this morning. She told me, as a matter of fact.
I have the app.
Yeah, dude.
I'm going to be getting on it here soon.
Such a great program, especially if you like to work out at home. The challenge for me is I don't really like working out at home. So that's hard for me to get motivated.
There's no way I can work out in the city. There's no gyms around me I'm going to stumble into for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I had to bring the gym into my house for sure. And I'm kind of back at that. I have a treadmill too, and some kettlebells, dumbbells. I need to kind of get into a program like P90X again. I need to do it, so I feel like if I didn't do it, then it's a problem. Like, I know when you get to that point, you're like, okay, you're in. Now you're in.
For sure. Definitely.
So, like, what's she think of all these ventures and all these running all these businesses? Is she trying to tell you to kind of pump the brakes, or is she like,
now that she'll be 50 also this month, next month. So we're only like 1 month difference in age. And she keeps telling me, when's enough, man? You know, like,
when is enough?
That's a good question. You know, it's when you're born to do this, it's hard to not do it. You know, I love the risk of starting something new, and I love growing it, and I love helping people succeed in it. And
you should start a podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, dude. A lot of people have told me that. I don't know if anybody really cares that much about what I have to say.
That's what I said at the beginning of this. I'm like, no one cares. 5 people are watching this, whatever. But I'm just going to keep doing it. And it's a passion project for years before it even might be a financial gain of any sort. But like,
we have some friends.
Fun learning with you guys, like, you know, what you did. And I mean, look at you, Marc. I mean, you're crushing it, man. You're doing so much. I mean, why not have at least 5 people hear your story, right?
Yeah, I'd love to inspire for sure. Well, our friends that we just traveled with, we just traveled over the holiday too to Tulum, Mexico, and we were with some friends that actually they have almost 1 million followers on their YouTube page. They're called the Scholler family, and they literally get paid to travel everywhere. And they just put it up on, they don't even have a podcast. They just put it on their YouTube channel. And that was a little bit inspiring. And I told my wife, I was like, maybe we could do something like getting ready to retire type show. I don't know, you know, I mean, we have some unique things about our life, I think, that are pretty interesting, you know?
Yeah.
But
just do whatever your heart's telling you, man. I mean, you'll make it work, make it happen.
That's true.
Ask me any questions you want in terms of, you know,
getting started on a podcast.
Yeah, little things here and there that are just like ripping the audio from this video is like something that was like, why is this more difficult than it needs to be? And it's not. You just pop it into iMovie and export the audio only, and then boom,
and that's it.
done.
Oh, nice.
Then you distribute it on something called Buzzsprout or whatever a distributor is, and then YouTube, you're off to the races.
Nice. Maybe I will ask you.
Now, do you partake in a lot of Barber Expos and things like that?
You know, I don't, man. I
don't either. I would like to more, but
I would like to. I don't think that they're geared at my type of barbershop, man. I hate to say it, and I hate the separation of like urban and traditional barbershops. Yeah. And I've tried to even employ barbers that want to cut those types of haircuts. Mm-hmm. But it's not like, you know, none of the barbers here are interested in a battle. They don't care about what the newest tools are. They don't care about, it's just.
You don't really have something to gain from it, and then it's not like you really even need a network, because it seems like you're kind of at your wit's end of like doing another venture or something like that. It seems like you don't need any partners or anything like that. So, well,
and the biggest thing for me now is my biggest commodity is my time, man. You know, it's just, if it takes any more of my time to do it, it's, you know, I'm already traveling to go to my other business in Portland or Seattle. you know, and traveling with my family and then being between all the stores. It's just a lot of time commitment. And so for me, it's more of what's worth my time. And I don't see the value there for me personally at a Barber Expo. With that said, there's tons of value there for people, especially if you're trying to learn or you're interested in whatever's new in haircutting, meeting people, networking, like you said.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll never know what you'll discover there or what you'll take from it. I feel like, you know, so it's just good to just check it out. You'll never know what could happen.
Yeah.
Now you say, you know, let's talk about simplicity versus complexity with your barbershops. It seems like you have a kind of a traditional feel to it. What makes it complex though? Like what separates your shop, you know, your traditional shop from another traditional shop, you would say?
I would say, you know, the same thing, man. It's building people. Great team. I put a lot of effort into having one-on-one conversations with people that work here. And I really focus on the customer experience, from just the overall shop vibe and feel to the way that the barbers talk with the customers. You know, I don't like loud, obnoxious music on. I don't stand for people having weed in their pocket and stinking up the shop. I really promote like having a professional atmosphere. I like the appointment only system. It's just an easier way to make sure everybody stays busy. You know, but other than that, man, I want to keep it fun and I want people to have a good time. And I think when the barbers are having a good time and they don't feel stressed because they're not busy, it gives a better vibe to the customer. And then in turn, the customer writes a good review or comes back or gives a referral or whatever. And that's my general theme for all my businesses is, you know, customer experience is number one. And that's different than customer service. Customer service just means you gave them a good service. You know, right. Customer experience is different. Like when they walk in, they get a feel for how the shop is, the way it looks, the way it smells, the conversation, the music that's on the radio, how easy it is to book, how easy it is to rebook their next appointment, putting product in their hair without them asking. You know, it's not an upcharge, you know, washing their hair for free if they want it or need it. You know, all these things are indicative of making the business successful and fun. And I think because when the barbers are busy, they're in a good mood and it creates a better vibe in the shop. So customer experience for me is like number one.
So in terms of like making content for the shop, like I see Pappy's premiere here, what kind of freedom do your barbers have to make the content versus how involved do you get with it? Or do you have a social media person, or how do you kind of play it with the content? Yeah, you know, dude, I do either film the content myself or I have people that create content as well. And then I usually do all the posting and stuff like that. So it cuts out a lot of the middlemen. It's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit of a mix. I don't know. We just recently got a sponsor, but this is a non-alcoholic beer company. Because I don't serve beer. I don't give beer at my shop because I don't drink. Right. So but I do give non-alcoholic beer. Those like the Athletic A's? Like it kind of looks like a. Yeah, it's called Athletic Brewing, and it's an all non-alcoholic IPA beer company. Interesting. Yeah. That's a good option for people. Like my wife doesn't drink and she's always asking for, you know, some alcoholic options. Why not a barbershop? I mean, you always hear about a beer being served, but never non-alcoholic beer. Something, you know, just have in your hand. So that's cool. That's a pretty dope clock too, right there. Shout out to Curtis Clocks. They built that. Nice. Take care. Brush your hair, right? That's our logo. Yeah. It's our little saying. Oh, so you got some products as well that you've developed, or? Yeah, so we have full line of products. We have texture powder, sea salt spray, pomade, clay, cream, beard oil, you know, all that type of stuff as well. Now, how well do you think it's done, or does it present any challenges in selling it?
You know, man, I mainly use it for a marketing thing. I don't push the sales of it, and I don't sell it online or anything, just here in the shop.
Are the barbers free to use whatever product, or
they all have it on their back bar, and they sell it for me to their customers and stuff. But it's really not something I push, and mainly just because I don't have the time.
Now, say they want to bring in a different brand of barber, though. How do you play that?
Oh, I'm not stressing on it. Yeah, they can use what they want as well. But I mean, since I provide it, it's good enough. You know how it is, man. They're like, oh, if I don't have to pay for it, I won't.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
that goes a long way.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let me back out of this real quick. So, Mark, I mean, thought we broke down a lot. I got a couple last things. You have any bones to pick in the industry right now? What's kind of your biggest bones you got with the industry?
Same thing we kind of touched on earlier, man. I'm not a fan of the, you gotta
thinking up a shop.
Yeah, and the charge $150, and I mean, it's just not. I just don't. It's not for me. If it works for somebody, that's great, man. But again, the sustainability of it, I just don't think it's there. Yeah. And again, I think, like you touched on earlier, like working hard, there's nothing wrong with it, man. There's nothing wrong with doing $25 haircuts when you first start cutting hair. Yeah. And I think if everybody just did that and grinded I mean, the great thing about barbering is you only have to grind for a little while, and then you build a clientele, and then it's just a matter of keeping that clientele. Yeah, taking care of them. And then when you get too busy, raising your prices, and you can, the sky's the limit, you know?
Absolutely.
So I don't like the get rich quick stuff. And, I think,
that's what I think that's the problem. People in their first year of barbering don't want to do the work. And then they see there's nothing wrong charging $150 for a haircut. Yeah. There's nothing wrong talking about it, but when you seem to market it towards people that are green in the industry, that's a problem. Yeah. Like, they haven't earned anything yet, and you're making it seem as if that they're owed the world when they're not.
For sure. So. Definitely. But that's really the only main thing, man. I mean, like I said, barbering's been great to me. I couldn't do any of the other stuff I do without barbering. So I think if people just stick to it, I don't think barbering's going anywhere. It's not like robots can replace us. I know there's some videos out there of robots replacing us, but the reality is, at least it's not going to happen in our lifetime. And it's consistent. You can do it anywhere you move to. And if you just buckle down and do a good job, you'll be fine. And it'll allow you to do other things, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, Mark, I mean, in closing, I think you crushed it, man. You taught the people what you're about. You showed what you're doing, and you're doing a lot. Is there anything else you want to promote or kind of put on the stage that you got coming up with the barbering, or anything really?
Oh man, I'm just doing my thing. I've got opened my new businesses, this teeth whitening and teeth cleaning, and it's just something else I'm doing and trying to build it, and in all honesty, trying to sell it. And just like I did with my tattoo removal business that we never even got around to talking to.
So talk about that real quick. So you sold that was a big moment, selling your tattoo removal business.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me, man. I opened that in 2010. I had already been a barber for a few years. I owned the tattoo shops at the same time, and I saw a need for tattoo removal and partnered up with a doctor and opened this incredible business. It was called San Diego Laser Removal. And COVID was the best thing actually that happened to tattoo removal, because while everything was closed, because tattoo removal is a medical procedure, we were able to be open.
Wow, that was huge.
People had extra money from getting all the unemployment and everything. They were also sitting around doing nothing. So it was a perfect time to get tattoo removal, because you need a couple days to heal. Yeah. And it changed everything in my business literally in 1 year. And in 2022, I sold it for multiple 7 figures, man.
Wow.
Private equity company came in. They were buying up all the mom and pop tattoo removal clinics. And mine was the top rated in San Diego, a big major city in Southern California. And they bought it right up. And yeah, man, it was a game changer.
This was all before barbering too.
No, I was already a barber at that time as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
I've always had a thousand things going on. It's hard to keep track of what was what.
Right. What kind did you get into, you know, making the 7 figures off of that? I mean, you maybe paid off a house, hopefully, you know, something like that.
Yeah, man. I'm fortunate.
What was kind of the next thing after that you
I'm fortunate enough to be debt free in life. I don't have car payments. I have nothing.
That's awesome, man.
So that was a huge game changer. But it allowed me to open the restaurants and stuff. It gave me some money to do that. It gave me money to buy teeth whitening this year. But the main thing it allowed me to do is now I do some real estate investing, and I'm a private money lender. And that's truly passive income. I literally wire money to a flipper. They flip a house, they wire me money back when it's done, and I don't do anything for it. And that's the best return on investment I've ever had. And if it wasn't for selling tattoo removal business, I would not be able to do that. So
massive passive income. That's great.
Yeah, that's the best thing I can do. And if I never barbered, I would not have been able to afford to buy the laser for the laser business. So it all goes back to barbering again.
Wow.
So
that's what started it all.
That's what started it all. I mean, even with
when is retirement for you? How do you want to retire? I think that's a great closing question.
Retirement.
You're like, I don't want to even think about it.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, think about it. You know what it is, man? Now that I'm B50 in 2 days, I'm feeling physically older than I ever have before. Things are a little harder. Dude, I was riding my skateboard last week and I fell, and I didn't even fall hard, but it hurt a lot.
I think I retired from skateboarding when I was like 11.
Well, I wasn't even, bro. I was riding down this small hill on my driveway, hit a rock, and it was over. And I was like, all right, I'm getting old. So I think it's a good question to ask, man, because I like the idea of retiring, but I don't know, man. I like doing what I do too. So, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel and do fun stuff with my kids and my wife. So I don't know what that looks like to me, man, but I think around 60 would be a good time, 10 years.
How old are your kids now?
They're young as well. I had kids later in life, man. I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Okay. Okay. So you're not, what my worry is for you, you know, once they graduate high school and the empty nest, you're going to get like a second wind, and you're going to go even harder.
My wife said the same thing, bro. She was like, what is going to happen when these kids are gone? I was like, oh man, I don't know.
This is happening now. What's going to happen when they're gone?
For sure. For sure.
Well, man, take it all step by step. Don't look too far ahead. You're crushing it. Don't work too hard either.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Man, I love your story, and I love what you're doing, man. It's a true inspiration for everyone listening, and the barbers especially, that, you know, all this is possible because of barbering first and foremost. Yep, so definitely. I'm proud of what you've done, Marc. You know, it's awesome, man. So keep doing it. Keep staying positive. I love your outlook on life too. And yeah, man, I appreciate you making the time tonight, man. Yeah, man, no problem. Good luck with your podcast. Hopefully when I'm looking at it in 10 years, you'll be at 8 million views per podcast. And I'll be like, yeah, I was one of the first guys on there. Yes, sir. Number 35 comes to an end. Good. Yeah, have a good night. Have a great day. Later. Take care, brother. Thanks for watching another episode of the Your Barber Podcast. New episodes come out weekly on Sunday. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when new content is posted. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.